Good morning, Ludington, Michigan. Steve Baisden coming to you live this morning. It is the 15th of May. The year is 2022. We want to thank everybody for tuning in and allowing us into your speakers this morning. Getting some updates here on the computer. I hate when these things start flashing up after I begin recording. I turn my computer on early, try to get all that update stupid stuff out of the way, and then as I'm talking, all of a sudden all these things start flashing up. I'm sorry for the distraction, but thank you so much for tuning us in. Thank you so much for all the contacts we've had this past week. We've had some good sit downs with some folks. We've had some good conversations, some interesting things, and we're going to be bringing you some news of world events this morning. I haven't done that in quite a while. But I'm going to tie it in together with, biblical prophecy this morning. So you don't want to miss this program. This program is being brought to you by your friends with the Churches of Christ, with the Church of Christ specifically, located at 3816 West Fountain Road. That's 3816 West Fountain Road, Ludington, Michigan, 49431. That's our address. We meet there every Sunday morning at 10:30 for Bible study and every Sunday morning at 11:30 for church worship. And guess what? You're all invited. It's 100% free. Leave your money at home. Bring your Bibles, bring your hearts, bring your thinking caps. You're going to need all of those things. And if you don't have a Bible, we'll give you one for free. Best deal in town. You can't beat it because we care, because we love, because we want to be here for you. That's what we do. That's how we roll. My phone number this morning, 231-425-6044. That's 231-425-6044. I want to talk about a couple of things this morning that most of these things you probably have not heard and will not hear on the mass social media news networks that most people tune into or listen to. It's not going to be on your radio driving home from work on Fox radio channel or whatever. It's not going to be on CNN or MSNBC. These things are going to be things that are taking place in the world today that are verifiable, that are true, that are real. But for some reason, our media is not reporting it. For whatever reason that may be. Are they ignorant? Are they derelict of their duties? Are they being told what they can and what they cannot do? Are they receiving false information? I mean, there's so many scenarios. I'm not even going to go into trying to guess why it is how it is, but it is definitely how it is. Okay, getting text messages. First off, Geneva, Switzerland. There's a meeting going on currently with the World Health Assembly. The World Health Assembly is the governing body of the World Health Organization, WHO. 192 nations are participants in this assembly with WHO. They all contribute to it, they all adhere to it, they all support it, they all participate in it. This special meeting in Geneva, Switzerland, it has been proposed by the Biden administration, people, in January. Biden gave these amendments in January that the World Health Organization be given the authority and the right to rule over the sovereignty of any nations. In other words, It doesn't matter what your laws say here in the United States. It doesn't say what English law says to those in Great Britain. It does not matter what China law says to those Chinese. It doesn't matter about what their national laws say. What this proposed amendment will do for the World Health Organization is give them the power to come into the United States of America and shut it down in case of any type of medical emergency, in case of any type of pandemic, in case of any type of bird swine flu or false fake COVID stuff or whatever. In fact, it is so broad and so far reaching, they do not even have to show evidence for why they are going to do what they're going to do. They can just come in and do it without even providing any proof that there even is any type of medical emergency. It gives them, basically, in a nutshell, 100% control and rule over the entire planet, including the Constitution of the United States of America, where we live, including any law of any nation. The World Health Organization, together with the 192 nations that are participating in it, are going to be voting on this May 22nd through the 24th. This May 22nd through the 24th. Now, today's the 15th. Beginning 1 week from today, they're going to start voting on this stuff. Biden, his administration, set this forward, this proposed amendment to the WHO, of which all the nations will vote on, and in all likelihood, at this point in time, looks like it's going to pass overwhelmingly. He did this in January. Let me help you to understand. Right now in Shanghai, China, there are 20 million human lives locked down. And when I say locked down, I mean they are literally locked in their apartments, in their houses, in their homes. They are not allowed to step 1 foot outside the door. Many of the apartment complexes have been deadbolted and welded shut. The military is patrolling the streets. It is a lockdown with a precedence that is unheard of. WHO will be able to do that everywhere if this passes. They will rule with an iron fist. Now you're sitting at home right now. I know how the modern American person thinks. Oh, well, up theirs, I'm not going to ever let them do that to me. I'm big and I'm bad and I'm tough and I ain't going to let them. Bull in a pig's eye. And that's a bunch of crap, if I can say it that way. And I just did. All that language is unbecoming, Steve. Oh, yeah, get over it, snowflakes. They just had to fake COVID stuff, which I said was fake from day one. And I'm gonna get flack for this. Based in COVID is real. Oh, based in COVID. Listen, all right, I get it. Listen, if I gotta break it down, and I have to because people are this stupid today. Let me break it down. When I say this COVID stuff was fake, I know there's a strain of COVID-19 virus that gives us a serious flu. I'm not saying that's fake. I'm saying that the level at which it was built up to lock us down, to remove our rights, and to cause the major instability within our nation, the pandemic, the government exploitation of it, this false flag, that's the stuff I'm talking about. When they told you you couldn't go to work, when they told you you could not go next door and help your neighbor, when they told you you couldn't breathe fresh air, when they told you you couldn't shake somebody's hand, when they told you that they controlled every aspect of your life, when they told you you can't go to church, when they told you you cannot worship God as you freely choose to worship God. That's what I'm talking about. If you think what we experienced in 2020 with the recent lockdowns, if you think that was bad and you never want to repeat it, listen, I've got news for you. When this goes through in a week and a half from now, and it looks like it will, and if it goes through, it will take effect this November. You wait and see what comes. And oh, by the way, all you big bad people that says, they're not going to do that to me, you're the very ones that were the first ones to put on your little mask, the first ones not to go to work, the first ones to condemn anybody else that wasn't doing it. In other words, you're hypocrites. Yeah. The majority of the people I'm talking to right now are so mind numb. They talk out of one side of their mouth about a lot of things that they think of off the cusp, knee-jerk reactions. But then when it comes down to it, they do the exact opposite of what they're spewing out of their mouths. Let me tell you how I know that you're going to fall right in line like a good little commie when this happens, because you've already done it. The vast majority of our nation has already given in. How do you know that, Basin? Because they were already all wearing their mask. They were already all shutting down their restaurants. They were already all shutting down their churches. They already are willing to give up their God-given rights. Government doesn't give you your rights. God does. Our government was set in place to protect our God-given rights. And it has failed us. And now it's expanding the power and the authority to a World Health Organization that gave us this last false flag, this garbage COVID fake pandemic that ultimately brought about the fake President Biden, the illegitimate president. I will never acknowledge that man as the president of the United States. He's not. He's illegitimate. He's fake. It's all screwed up. It's messed up. How do I know that we're messed up? Because nobody's doing anything about this stuff. Basden, what are you doing? Well, let me tell you. Let me just tell you some more facts, if I may. The vast majority of people that are hearing my voice right now, they think that I am a conspiratorial extremist and they don't want any part of what I'm saying. I've been preaching and teaching and illustrating, giving facts. I mean, people have been giving facts on these things now for several years. And the vast majority of feedback I get is, well, I just heard it this past week, and this is almost a direct quote. I don't like it when you talk about politics, Steve. Talk about nicer things. Stay on religion, stay on the nicer things, but don't go to the politics. Huh. You know what that tells me? It tells me, number one, you disagree with me on my politics, which is, hey, okay, I get it. And I'm not condemning you for that in and of and by itself. But when facts are presented, objective, absolute, 100% undeniable facts are presented, and the people still do not respond in a way to correct the fallacious, erroneous state of affairs that are taking place right now, please don't tell me that you're going to do something tomorrow when you haven't done it in your past. It will not work with me. Why aren't you doing something, Basin? Because it seems as if I'm almost all totally 100% by myself. Oh yeah, there's some people that are with me and I'm with some people, but that's it. I mean, and it is a vast, vast minority. Oh, Basin's an extremist. Oh, Basin wants to go to war. Oh, Basin wants to fight. Basin this, Basin that. Well, you know what? Maybe Basin does. But maybe Basin is the one that's correct in this. Maybe you should be wanting to get a little bit of grit and a little bit of courage and a little bit of determination to start standing on your own 2 feet, to start being a red-blooded American, United States of American citizen. Stop cowering behind your television sets and your computer screens and to the vast social media networks that have got you controlled. Maybe it's time you stand up and say it's time to fight. Maybe it's time you stand up and say it's time to do something. Maybe it's time for you to stand up and say, you know what? Maybe, just maybe, I've been wrong. And this Baisden guy may have been right. And I'm not asking you to follow me. Don't believe me. Don't trust me in and of and by myself. Verify what I'm telling you. Look this information up. If they're not having a meeting in Geneva, Switzerland with the World Health Assembly right now, discussing the vote that's coming up May 22nd, where 192 nations are involved with taking away the sovereignty of every single nation on the planet. Tell me this isn't true. It is. Most of the people have never heard of it. 99% of the people listening to me right now have never even heard of this. You know why? I'm going to guess 95% of you don't want to hear it. Closing your ears, turning your heads. You won't look at it. You won't think about it. Well, it's inconceivable. Well, that's just rhetoric. Well, that's just somebody just talking out, trying to create a problem. Listen. Yes, I am trying to create a problem. You better believe it. I'm trying to create a huge problem for the World Health Organization and for the Biden administration. I want to be the biggest thorn in their sides. But nobody listens. Nobody cares. Here's what you're going to do. You're too busy trying to work double shifts at your petty little jobs, whatever it may be, so that you can buy the extra gasoline that is now becoming in shortages and becoming so expensive that we can't afford it, so that you can go to the store and pay $10 for a pound of bacon and $10 for a dozen eggs. You're so involved with just trying to live your life and to build your family that you're missing some of the most critically important events that's ever gone down in the history of the world. You're too busy. You're already too burdened. I got too much on my plate. I can't think about this. I'm going to overload. I got to disconnect. I've heard it all. I've heard it all. Well, I just think you're mistaken. Some people just flatly say, well, there's nothing I can do about it anyway. Yeah, and that's the problem, isn't it? Isn't it? Now, I'm going to suggest, I got a lot of suggestions, but for right now on the air, let me give you this one. I'm going to suggest that you contact, every single representative, every single person in the electoral body that you can. Contact your congressman, contact your representatives, contact your senator, contact the governor's office. You contact the news media outlets, contact everybody you can, and you tell them we do not support this. We are not going to let this happen under our watch. You had better do all you can to not support this. We've got to start there, and we've got to do it now because it's less than a week from now. 1 week from today, they're going to start the voting process in Geneva, Switzerland. More news. You want some more? Basin's got more. I got a little bit more for you today. Y'all ready? How about this? The United States begins nuclear war exercises. Did you know that? Bet you didn't. I bet you didn't know that for the first time in a long, long time, our United States Army is conducting nuclear war exercises and dealing with the chaos which will immediately follow a nuclear war. The Guardian Response 22 Homeland Emergency Exercise features role players displaying horrific injuries as hazmat-suited personnel attempt to handle the fallout. Taking place at Muscatatuck Urban Training Center in Indiana, the United States Army soldiers are evaluated based on how they apply occupational skills to a national nuclear event. They're trying to dig through rubble and carnage and all kinds of things like that to dig out bodies that they are pretending have been contaminated with nuclear fallout. And they are training in how to decontaminate the nuclear dust and debris and settlement on the bodies of people. When's the last time you heard of the United States of America doing that? When is the last time you've heard of that? I'm guessing, and I could be wrong, that something like this at this level and at this degree probably hasn't taken place since the 70s. Maybe even the 60s. You know, with the Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay. All right. Finland defaults on debt for electricity. Russia shuts them off. Finland stopped paying for their power, their electricity from Russia. So Russia says, no pay, no get. Now, Finland says it's not a huge deal because they only get 10% of their electricity from Russia. Probably a little bit more than that, but okay. What's the point, Steve? The point is this. Things are not getting better. Oh, you think just this one little thing? No, not just this one little thing. Yesterday, May the 14th, the Democrat Party leader of the United States House of Representatives, Steny Hoyer, Democrat from Maryland, took to the floor of the United States House of Representatives last night and told that body, we are at war. He was referring to Russia. The Democrat Party leader of the United States House of Representatives publicly announced, we are at war, referring to Russia. Things. Steve, dude, what are you doing? Come on. You know that this stuff is just saber rat. I mean, come on. You know he's just kidding around. Or, you know, I mean, come on. You really think we're at war? Ukraine, Friday night, said this is the most violent rocket and artillery attack that they've experienced in 8 years. The earth shaking and the explosives that were taking place could be felt 50 kilometers away. At first, they thought it was nuclear explosions. It was so powerful. Russia has now begun to use their most powerful conventional war material. But that's not even the most surprising thing here. Here's something that I want you to grasp. This is coming out of the region of Luhansk, Ukraine. And this is a quote from their mayor. This is the most violent rocket and artillery attacks in 8 years. Now, wait a minute. I'm not a great mathematician. I'm pretty good at math, But I don't claim to be Albert Einstein here. But let me do some math. Let me see. February 24th, 2022, Russia went into the Donbass region. Let me see. This is May. May 15th. So a little over 2.5 months ago, Russia went in. But Luhansk is reporting this is the most violent rocket and artillery attacks they've had in 8 years. Now, why would they say 8 years if Russia's only been in there for a little over 2.5 months? Because Ukraine has been in a civil war since 2014. The Azov Battalion of the Ukrainian Army, which wears Nazi swastikas on their helmets and SS badges on their uniforms, have been bombing Donetsk and Luhansk since 2012. They've been bombing the citizens. It's all good, Steve. Don't worry about it. Don't even sweat it, man. Sweden and Finland have asked to join NATO. That vote's supposed to also come within this month to allow them into NATO. Russia has publicly announced if this happens, they can turn Finland into ash within 10 minutes. It was yesterday they said that. Yesterday they said if Finland continues to seek NATO alliance and acceptance and becomes a part of NATO, they will turn Helsinki, Finland, their capital, into ash within 10 minutes. But is Poland next? Well, what do you mean now, Steve? Well, Poland has announced that they're going to send 10,000 troops into Ukraine. And the Ukrainian army has been given orders to allow these Polish troops into the Ukraine because they're coming to the aid of Ukraine. And so that's an unofficial document that has been circulating, but it's so official or unofficial, however you want to look at it, that Belarus, the nation right next door that Russia's already used to enter into Ukraine through, the nation of Belarus has said they will join in the war with Russia against Poland and Ukraine if this happens. Poland says they're doing it beginning May 22nd. Did you know, are you aware that the nation of Finland has the most prolific, the most vast bunker system in the world? They say that they have enough bunkers in their nation for 100% of their population. As of May the 12th, Finland began reopening those bunkers, inspecting those bunkers, and stocking all of their nuclear attack bomb shelters. Oh, Steve. Come on, man. What are you talking about? Everything's good. Watch the news. We got a couple little financial hiccups. So there's a shortage on diesel fuel. Trucks are stopping. Trucks can't deliver products. Inflation's going through the roof. We got open borders where all the illegals are just pouring in, and they've stolen all of our baby food off the shelves, and they've sent it down to the borders for the illegal aliens, and so that your children can starve. But we got a few little hiccups. But all this war rattling, sword saber rattling against Russia. Come on, Steve, you're beating a dead horse. Lithuania has broken off all diplomatic relations with Russia on Thursday. Iran said there will be no nuclear deal. Any deals are dead. Russia says if Finland does attempt to join NATO, they will be breaking their 1947 their Paris peace agreement that they signed. And this is a quote: "If there is no peace, then there is war," from Russia. Huh. Biden administration announces oil and gas lease cancellations in Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico. So let me get this straight. I just want to help me out here a little bit, people. Again, sometimes I need a little help. There's shortages of fuel in the entire world, and even here in the United States of America, to the degree that diesel trucks now are stopping at truck stops and cannot refuel. There's shortages. They can't get it. When they can, it's like $6 a gallon. They can't afford it. Things are breaking down all over the place. Prices are just skyrocketing. You know, I'm happy to announce I filled my gas tank yesterday for $22. Only problem was it was the gas tank to my lawnmower. But at any rate, what's our illegitimate president doing to help us? He announced that he's canceling all the oil and gas leases in the regions of Alaska and the Gulf of Mexico for oil production in the United States of America. Thank you, illegitimate piece of crap, Biden, and your sidekick, Kamala Harris. Medvedev, May 12th. One of the main leaders of Russia says NATO supplying weapons to Ukraine risk open conflict with Russia, and it could be nuclear. It doesn't mean a thing. It doesn't mean it, because they understand that it's nuclear. It'll be total nuclear annihilation for everybody, therefore they won't do it. Oh, you want to bet? I'm of the opinion they will. I'm of the strong opinion that they will. I'm of the strong opinion that they're getting backed into a corner right now as we speak because of all the aid that we have already been giving to Ukraine. You know, all the stuff that's killing Russian soldiers who were trying to stop the civil war that was taking place in the Donbass region where the Nazis were killing the Ukrainian citizens. 14,000 civilians in the Donbass region has been murdered since 2014 by the Ukrainian government, the Azov Battalion of the Ukrainian army. Russia said we cannot any longer sit back and allow this to take place on innocent civilians. These people wanted to annex and become a part of Russia. They're a Russian-speaking region within Ukraine. The United States and NATO went in and undid a duly elected official that was elected in Ukraine in 2012. By manipulation and money and fraud, we placed in there a puppet president who was pro-Western. That created a civil war. Have you heard this, people, on your news? In which 14,000 innocent civilians were killed by the Ukrainian army, in which Russia, this is one of the main reasons they said they had to go on, one of the main reasons, just one. The president of Switzerland on May the 10th, and this is a quote from the president of Switzerland. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name. Ignazio Cassis. I think that's close. Here's what he said. We are also preparing for an escalation with nuclear bombs, unquote. We are also preparing for an escalation with nuclear bombs, unquote. Now, wait a minute, hang on. You know what? There's so much more, but let me just pause for a moment. I just want to pause just for one moment. The United States of America is now conducting nuclear war exercises with our military. Finland has opened up their nuclear bunkers and is preparing them and stocking them right now for 100% of their population. Switzerland says they are preparing for nuclear war. Russia is saying it is imminent, it's going to happen. They are serious. War means war. They have said, we believe we can win this war. Huh. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. Well, here's what. Somehow, some way, something that happens with a lot of people is things get convoluted. I'll put it that way for lack of a better term. They start, okay, some will just flat deny it. They'll just say, Steve, there's no way. It's just not going to happen. These things are just too fanciful. It's too out there. If it happens, they wouldn't do this because it means mutual annihilation. And so they won't even think about it. They won't contemplate it. Then you have another kind of people that says, you know what? I think that this is serious. I think this is real. I think it could happen. I think the Russians think they can win under certain circumstances, which is why they've been showing off their new hypersonic nuclear warheads and their new Sarmat 2 missile. And so they prepare for it. There's a third class of people. Let me get this to you in a minute, but go ahead, caller. You're on live with Steve.
Good morning. Here's a little eye-opener for the people that probably don't know any of this. I know you do, you've been told. The stealth subs that Russia has, they've also been fully loaded, have been for some time with their nuclear weapons. There's 4 that are stealth. They don't even know, we don't even know, nobody knows where they're at. If they are setting off the East Coast 100 miles, and they want to fire one of these hypersonic top-res missiles, from the time it's fired off that sub underwater, 3 minutes and 12 seconds, it explodes over Des Moines, Iowa. Any cities closer, like New York, you've got 30 seconds.
Yep.
Can't do much preparing in that time. Can't even detect it.
Tim, thank you.
Some of their missiles from the big ballistic guys that glide in, they're stealth too. They can't be detected. But carry on with the good news, sir. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that, Tim. Thanks for reminding me of that. That's something that I had forgotten, that I wanted to mention that I had forgotten. Speaking of nuclear submarines, several things have happened recently with that. Are you aware? The nation of England, Great Britain, if you want to call it that, has just called in all of their nuclear submarines within the last month, and they have rearmed them to the hilt with the most nuclear arsenal that each one can carry, and they set them back out to sea. Now, previously, each submarine only carried like 7 nuclear warheads. They have 4. They have 4 nuclear submarines. Called them all into port, and they rearmed them with in excess of over 40 each, set them back out to sea. France previously carried no nuclear warheads, has sent all of their submarines, every one nuclear, armed to the teeth with nuclear bombs. Last week, these things happened, people. Last week! Good morning, caller. You're on live with Steve.
All the thousands of people that are being killed over in Ukraine, and all the people that died from COVID, and people that are starving to death because the world food supply is at risk. But I've only heard it mentioned a couple of times on different media. Over in China, city of Shanghai, 20 million people. They're hard lockdown, kept in their around it, starved to death.
Yeah, you're breaking up real bad, Tim. I can't hear you. I got to cut you off, Jim.
And who knows how many other cities in China they're doing this to.
Right. I mentioned that early on in the beginning of the program also, Jim.
Oh, I missed the first few minutes, but yes, the globalist plan to depopulate the Earth, any means, war, starvation.
Yeah. You're breaking up. You're breaking up really bad, Jim.
Monetary.
I'm going to let you go because you're breaking up so bad. And we discussed this in the beginning of the program. It was my opening news bit is that there's going to be a vote in Geneva, Switzerland, giving the World Health Organization total and complete authority over every sovereign nation and all of their laws. In other words, if this passes and they're voting on it beginning next week, 1 week from today, they're going to start the voting process. 192 nations are in the process of voting this into act, and the Biden administration are the ones that submitted this proposal that the World Health Organization be granted the power and the authority to have complete rule over any nation or all nations in matters of medical emergency. And they can do so without even having to verify what they're saying is factual. So they can come down and do the United States of America what they've done with Shanghai, China, and lock you into your house and starve you to death and keep you in and not let you get sunlight and just totally take away everything. And already been there, I've already done that. Just a real quick one. I don't know if Jim heard it or not, but that's how we began the program today. Why? Why has France armed all of its submarines with the most nuclear arsenal they can carry and sent them all to sea? Why has England done this? You know what the Biden administration is doing? I don't know as of this exact second, but the last I heard about a week and a half ago, Psaki, that slut House Speaker for Biden administration. Oh, it's basically that's on Christ. Like, no, it's not. She's a whore. She's a piece of crap. She sold her soul long ago for a couple bucks, and she ain't not going back. But at any rate, she said there's no need for the United States to worry about this nuclear stuff, and so therefore we're not going to. But then yesterday, all of a sudden now the military starts conducting war exercises. Nuclear war exercise. Oh, but folks, don't worry. Don't think about it. It's all good, man. Let me go to the third class of people I was talking about. The first class of people says, I'm not going to believe it. I don't believe this stuff. No way. No, Steve, you're just blowing it out of proportion. Second class of people says, you know what? I think it's valid. I think it's could really happen, and I'm going to do whatever I can to prepare to the best of my ability, just in case. Then there's a third class of people. And this class of people are sort of in the middle. They're the kind of people that does this. They say, man, I don't think it's going to happen. But if it does, and I guess it could, maybe, if it does, well, it's God's will and nobody can stop it anyway. It's God's doing. Who can undo it? May I suggest to you, those may be the most dangerous kind of people? Now, I'm not denying the providence of God. Anybody that's listening to this program knows I believe with every fiber of my being in the divine providence of God and God working in our world today. That's not the question. The question is, how does God work in our world today? Let me throw this analogy at you, if I may. Let's just say, for a moment, that Volodymyr Zelensky, the Nazi thug, false, illegitimate leader of Ukraine, decided that he wanted to stop the escalation. Do you think he could make that decision if he wanted to? Well, yeah, God gives him the free will. He can choose or decide whatever he wants to. He could choose right now to commit suicide. He could choose right now to go on a diet. He could choose right now to take a private car, somehow sneak into Moscow and find Putin and give him a kiss right on the lips. I mean, he could decide anything. He could decide right now that he wants to stop the warring escalation that's taking place in Ukraine. He could decide that right now. So if he decided this, could he not appeal to President Putin and say, listen, let's stop this before it gets out of control. Let's stop this before it gets any further. It's obvious that the Donbass region does not want to be a part of Ukraine. They want to be a part of Russia. We're tired of fighting it. There's been civil war here for 8, 9, 10 years now. Fine. You know what? We will let those states freely secede. We will stop our military escalation, and we will not allow NATO into our nation, which threatens Russia, by the way. NATO's encroaching upon Russia and breaking our treaties with them, the Minsk Agreement and many others, the Paris Accord, many others. But if Zelensky did this, the whole thing could stop right now. The whole thing could end. It could all stop right now. Now, wait a minute. Did God do that? Or would it be Vladimir Zelensky? Sounds to me, sounds to me like Zelensky has a little bit of power in his hands right now. Is God making Zelensky do this? Is God forcing him? Is God saying, hey, man, this is what you're going to be worse than Hitler. You're going to do this, you're going to do that, and there's nothing you can do about it. Is that the kind of God you people have in your houses, in your homes, in your hearts? Do you have the kind of God that makes people do evil things and people cannot have freedom of choice to not do it? Is that your kind of God, where your God dictates policy and evil policy and wicked policy and bad policy and makes people do things against their own free will? Is that your kind of God? Now, unfortunately, I'm finding that more and more and more and more people are subscribing to this type of theology all the time. Well, it's just God's will. Who can stop it? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, people. I could go through and give illustration after illustration after illustration about how God works in the world. Today we know he works by means of the gospel. The Apostle Paul would say in Romans chapter 1, verse 16, "For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation." We know that God gave us a system of governing throughout the planet, whatever that system may be, and every nation has their own system. But government is God instituted so that government could keep civil orderliness among the people of the nations. We know that God sets nations up and God tears nations down. We know that righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach of any people. How does righteousness come today, people? How is it that righteousness comes today? How is it that a nation can be exalted today? Well, it comes through righteousness. Well, what is righteousness? The gospel of Jesus Christ is the righteousness of God. When the gospel of Jesus Christ and its principles and its morals and its dictates are followed, a nation is exalted, it's built up, it's blessed. But when people throw the gospel of Jesus Christ out the window and they throw godly morals and godly ethics out in the trash can, that nation's brought down. That's how God works in the world today. And he doesn't make you do it or not do it. It happens by our own free will. These dirtbag nations Morning caller, on live with Steve.
Spot on again. Moral aptitude of this nation. What do you see the protests across the country now about the food shortages, about the
Oh my.
government? No, just about abortion and killing babies.
Oh yeah, yeah, and the homos and all the other garbage. Tim, it sickens me. It sickens me. But appreciate it, buddy. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah.
Right. Bye bye. So these dirtbag nations are sending their dirtbag people to enter into the United States illegally, quote unquote illegally. It used to be until the illegitimate president Joe Stalin Biden got in with his sidekick Commie Harris and the rest of the thieving, scumming, commie, pinko fags got in. Used to be illegal. But these dirtbag countries are sending in the dirtbag people because their dirtbag countries are nothing but a dirtbag place full of dirt bags. What makes them that way? The people are lazy, slothful, unethical, immoral, void of God. They're in the darkness, not wanting to comprehend the light of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so the people determine what the nation is. And that's what we're getting coming through our borders every second. But see, that's not even, the problem is the mentality of the illegitimate administration that is serving, dictating policy in the United States of America right now. They're the ones that are the real problem. What are we doing? Number one, here's what we're not doing. We're not putting God back into our nation. We're not putting God first any longer in this nation. We've given up on that idea for some time now, and it's obvious when you look around us what's going on and what's happening with the immorality, with the debauchery, with the sin that's running rampant and taking over the citizenry and the populace of what used to be the great United States of America. So you talk with these people, and they're so void of any realm of biblical knowledge. They start saying, well, this is all prophesied about, Steve, in the Bible. Don't you know that the Bible says that this is going to happen in the last days? And in the last days, perilous times shall come, and there's going to be wars and rumors of wars, and there's going to be earthquakes in diverse places, and the whore is going to be burned up with fervent heat and fire, and it's going to be destroyed, and God's coming with his mighty angels, and they don't know beans from apple butter, from Cheese Whiz. About the Bible. We're no longer in the last days, people. The last days, scripturally speaking, was the last days of God's old covenant world, Judaism. That ended. We're no longer under the law of Moses. We're under the law of Christ. Galatians 6:2. We're no longer in the last days of that old covenant world. We have already entered into our new world, and God destroyed that old world like he promised he would. If you people would just stop being, how can I say this? Typical. Stop being typical. Stop being normal. Stop being the average know-it-all, know-nothing. Well, I know the Bible says that God's going to destroy the earth with fire. It says it, Steve! If you would stop being so typically, willfully, stupid, and ignorant, you would understand that the world that he was going to destroy was the old covenant world, and he did it 2,000 years ago, and he brought in the new covenant, which is Christianity. And Christianity has no last days, none. All of the plagues, all the trumpets sounding in the book of Revelation, all of the prophecies have already been fulfilled. Those are the things that were going to happen to end the old covenant world, to end the law of Moses, and to bring in Christianity, God's new world. When we read the Bible, we're reading something that's 2,000 years old. It was brand new 2,000 years ago. The new heaven and the new earth, yeah, God's new world where God is with his people. Where is God at? Where does God dwell? Well, in John chapter 14, Jesus Christ said that God dwells in his house. And then in 1 Timothy 3:15, Paul said that God's house is the church of Christ. And that's the kingdom of God. That's where God dwells. God dwells in the church. He brought the church into existence 2,000 years ago. That was the new house of God. No longer was the old house of God with the Jews in Jerusalem in that physical temple. He destroyed it. The plagues came upon them. The trumpet sounding came upon them. Jesus said all things which are written would be fulfilled when they would see Jerusalem compassed with armies. So people today run around saying, well, this is just God's will. Well, the seventh trumpet's beginning to sound. Oh, the earth's going to be destroyed. You people got to stop being stupid. We can change things if we get back to being real, studying our Bibles, and putting God first. You make those phone calls. You tell your elected representatives to not go along with this Geneva, Switzerland vote that's coming up to give the World Health Organization the power over the government of the United States of America or anyone else. We've got to start taking the initiative to turn this thing around and stop it before it's too late. You call your elected officials, you voice your opinion, you tell them we should not be backing this Ukrainian Nazi regime to escalate to a nuclear war of mutual destruction, thinking it's God's divine will. Are you people mad? Are you stupid? The same people that say we can't trust the media watches the media and swears to God on a stack of Bibles that we got to help the Nazis over in Ukraine. And I know a lot of people think I'm crazy and I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. But let me tell you this. I've got more files of factual information on this war than you've ever heard about. I've got more biblical knowledge on the end time events than anybody you know. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. I'm not saying it braggingly. I'm telling you that confidently. I know what the Bible teaches on these things. And if your pastor thinks I'm mistaken, I'd be more than happy to talk to him about it. Have him call me. If you think I'm mistaken, call me. For the love that God wants us to have, for true love, I think it's time we stand up and start making a difference. I don't want any more murders. I don't want any more deaths. I don't want any more threats. I want peace. But before we can have peace, we must first have the pure gospel of Jesus Christ. James chapter 3, verse 17 says, before we can have peace, it must first be pure. My name's Steve Basden. We'll get back to nothing but church things next week. I just thought I'd bring you the tip of the iceberg of a little bit of insight for your contemplation. So you can go back to calling me a nutcase now. Go back to laughing at me. Those of you who want to call me, my number is 231-425-6044. 231-425-6044. May God help us all. Y'all have a good day.